The night the fire erupted, it didn't begin with flames but with a sound, an animal scream of metal tearing and glass bursting, sharp enough to cut through sleep and sink into bone. Smoke followed seconds later, thick and oily, rolling out of the old apartment building like a living thing that had finally decided to breathe. People would later say the fire alarms failed, that the wiring was old, that the building should have been condemned years ago. But none of that mattered in the moment when a homeless woman sleeping on a piece of cardboard across the street looked up and saw a second-floor window glowing the wrong kind of orange. In that instant, before sirens, before crowds, before anyone else even understood what was happening, she knew someone was trapped inside. And she ran toward the fire while everyone else would soon run away. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that one brave act can change many lives, take a second to like this video, share it, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this matter because people like this woman exist, even when the world refuses to see them. Her name was Mara, though almost no one used it anymore. Years on the streets had reduced her to labels whispered under breath or shouted with annoyance: nuisance, beggar, problem. She had once been a caregiver, a mother, someone who remembered birthdays and brushed hair before school. But life had taken sharp turns, an accident, medical bills, grief that hollowed her out from the inside, and slowly, quietly, she had slipped through every crack society had to offer. That night, her coat was too thin for the cold, her shoes had holes, and her hands were numb as she crossed the street toward the burning building without hesitation. The fire climbed fast, feeding on dry wood and years of neglect. Smoke poured from the windows, choking and blinding. Somewhere above the flames, a child cried, not loudly, but desperately, the sound uneven and fading as smoke stole breath. Mara felt fear, real and crushing, but it came second to something older and stronger, something that had survived everything she had lost. She covered her mouth with her sleeve and forced herself inside. The stairwell was already a furnace. Heat pressed against her skin, and every step felt like walking deeper into a nightmare. She didn't know which apartment the child was in, only that the sound came from above. Her lungs burned, and her legs screamed for her to turn back, but memory guided her, memory of small hands in hers, of promises once made to always keep a child safe. When she reached the second floor, flames licked the walls, and the ceiling cracked ominously. The crying came from behind a door already blackened by smoke. She threw her weight against it until it gave way. Inside, the room was chaos, curtains aflame, furniture collapsing, air thick with poison. The child, a little boy no older than 6, was curled on the floor, coughing, eyes wide with terror. Mara scooped him up, wrapping him in her coat, shielding his face with her body. The return down the stairs felt longer than the climb up. Each breath was a gamble, each step a risk. When a beam collapsed behind her, she stumbled but did not fall. She would not fall. Not tonight. They burst out of the building just as the first sirens wailed in the distance. Cool air hit them like a shock. Mara collapsed on the sidewalk, still holding the boy, her body shaking uncontrollably. People rushed forward now, neighbors, strangers, firefighters arriving at last. Hands reached in, pulling the child away, checking him, lifting him into safety. Someone wrapped a blanket around Mara's shoulders, but she barely felt it. Her vision blurred, not just from smoke but from the weight of what had almost happened. As paramedics worked on the boy, a black car skidded to a stop nearby, far more expensive than anything else on the street. A man stepped out, his suit wrinkled, his face pale and frantic. He was a CEO, a self-made millionaire whose name appeared in business magazines and online articles about success and ambition. Minutes earlier, he had been in a boardroom across town when a call shattered his carefully controlled world. His son's apartment was on fire. His son was inside. He had driven through red lights, through fear, through every terrible possibility his mind could create. He saw his child alive before he saw anything else. Relief nearly dropped him to his knees. Then he saw the woman on the curb, soot-covered, coughing, eyes hollow with exhaustion. A firefighter pointed in her direction, explaining in hurried motions what she had done. The words hit him harder than the fear had. This woman, who had nothing, had run into fire to save his son. While cameras flashed and officials spoke, Mara faded into the background as she always did. Once the child was safe, once the crisis belonged to professionals and reporters, she became invisible again. No one asked where she would sleep that night or whether her lungs would recover. She slipped away quietly, retreating to the shadows with the same dignity she had carried into the flames. But the man did not forget her. As dawn broke, he found himself unable to leave the scene, replaying the image of her emerging from smoke, shielding his child with her own body. Gratitude tangled with guilt. He had spent years chasing growth, profit, recognition, telling himself he was building a legacy for his family. Yet the person who had truly protected that legacy was a woman society had discarded. He began searching immediately, not with a single dramatic gesture, but with relentless determination. He spoke to firefighters, neighbors, paramedics, anyone who might know her. The answers were vague. She slept near the old bus station, sometimes by the church steps, sometimes not at all. She drifted, as many did, following safety and scraps of kindness. Mara spent the next days battling pain and coughing fits, her chest raw from smoke. She avoided clinics, knowing the questions that would come, the paperwork she couldn't provide. The streets had taught her endurance, but they had also taught her to expect nothing. When a stranger approached her near the soup kitchen, she assumed it was another well-meaning volunteer offering a sandwich or a sermon. She did not recognize the man without his suit jacket, without the polished calm of boardrooms. He did not speak to her like a savior or a hero. He listened. He learned her name. He learned about the life she had lived before everything fell apart, about the daughter she had lost touch with, about the years that blurred together in survival mode. He learned that courage often grows in the places no one bothers to look. Change did not come all at once. It never does. It came in steps that respected her humanity. Medical care without judgment. A room with a door she could lock. Clean clothes. Time. He arranged for support not as charity, but as restitution, an attempt to balance a debt that could never truly be repaid. More importantly, he stayed involved, refusing to let the help end once the headlines faded. As weeks turned into months, Mara's body healed faster than her spirit. She struggled with shame, with the fear that stability would be taken away just as suddenly as it had arrived. But slowly, trust returned. She volunteered, then worked, rediscovering skills she thought were gone forever. She reconnected with her daughter, a reunion filled with tears and careful hope. The fire had burned away more than a building. It had burned away the lie that her life was over. The man, too, was changed. He funded programs for housing and mental health not because it looked good, but because he had seen the cost of neglect up close. He spoke about responsibility differently now, about success measured in lives touched rather than numbers climbed. Every time he watched his son sleep safely, he remembered the woman who had carried him through smoke. If this story has touched your heart so far, take a moment right now to comment below and share what kindness means to you. Your words matter more than you think, and they help stories like this reach the people who need them most. On the anniversary of the fire, there was no press, no ceremony. Just a quiet dinner, a small table, and the unspoken understanding that some bonds are forged in moments of terror and last far beyond them. Mara no longer slept on cardboard. She laughed more easily now, though her eyes still held depth earned the hard way. She was not defined by what she had lost, but by what she had chosen to do when it mattered most. Before this story ends, we want to ask you something simple but powerful. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that humanity still exists in unexpected places, please like this video, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to the channel. And just before you go, leave a comment below telling us where you believe true heroism comes from. Your engagement helps keep these stories alive, and your compassion keeps their meaning real.